It's April, and we are in the thick of starting lots of little seedlings under lights. So today we thought we would show you our indoor seed starting setup, take you to the gardens and show you a bit of what we've been working on. And if you hang around to the end, we've got a couple fails to share with you too. Today I'd like to show you my indoor seed starting setup and take you along as I water my seedlings. I like to do this every morning. I'm a pretty hands-on person when it comes to seeds and growing plants and things. I like to be the one to turn the lights on. I don't want to automate anything. I like that daily check to see how everything's doing. I should say I'm not usually this dressed up. I'm usually schlepping around in my PJs. But I had to go somewhere after this and I figured nobody needs to see my PJs. We live in town and we have city water, and so I've taken to filling my jugs with water and letting them sit for about 24 hours. From the research I had done, I think that's supposed to get rid of the chlorine in the water. I don't know. Not sure if it's working or not. If any of y'all know, you can let me know. I'm new to city water. Over the years, I have done several different methods of watering plants, and I like this method pretty good. I've done bottom watering, which is just lifting up the little cell packs and putting water in the bottom of the tray, but it's easy to overwater that way. I've also done overhead watering where I just use a watering can. This basement does not have a drain in it like my old basement did. So I switched to using this type of a watering can, and I really like it because the center of the tray can sometimes get a little drier than the edges, and so I can just target those center areas and give them more water if they need it. I also like it because it works to water all the small soil blocks. Once my seedlings are ready to be transitioned to the garden, they first have to be transitioned to the outdoors, get used to the sun's light. So these have all been pretty well hardened off, and I have them here on this porch because it's a south-facing porch and they get a lot of sunlight. I didn't have room under lights for all of these, so they've been hardened off and they've been there for a couple weeks. When we got the basement ready for starting seeds, there were a few things we had to do. My father-in-law owns the property here, and he very kindly put a sink, a utility sink in the basement. That has been really, really handy. So that we had to get a sink in. Morgan also painted the walls because being a basement, it's dark and it's easy to feel like a dungeon, but the white paint on the walls really does help. He also got a couple of lights, and then we moved my seed racks from my old seed starting setup. I've used a lot of the smaller soil blocks this year because my setup is a bit smaller than the old one, actually half the size. LaRonda took half the lights to Arkansas, and so I have half the lights here. But it's made me get a little more creative with finding ways to grow all the seeds that I want to grow. I've used the porches like I mentioned, but I've also just used a lot of these small soil blocks and bumped them up just when they're ready to be moved out and can be hardened off and then grown outside. So that's really worked well. When bumping up my seeds from the small soil blocks to a tray or something else, I like to use a pencil to make the hole. You don't need fancy equipment for a lot of this. It just saves the ends of your fingers. This can get a little sore if you're doing a bunch of those. I've had at least one batch of seeds not germinate at all, and that was my chives. I've never grown chives from seed, so I don't know, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe someone can tell me what I did wrong. But I did not have any chives come. The rest, everything else has done pretty well, except for my ranunculus. I'm a little bitter about those. They are in a cold frame and I don't think they're happy. I'm gonna be lucky if I get one ranunculus out of them. Hey, but you live and learn. It felt really good to get some larkspur and some bells of Ireland finally planted in the garden. I told Morgan that evening that I feel like the garden is now mine because I've actually planted something in it. So I am here in my seed starting station. It's not much, but it gets the job done. I've got my seeds out here right now, but I'm going to be storing them in the house a bit later. You should probably not leave them out where there's no moisture control. I have a lot of my, let me show you here. Potting soil there, a few garden supplies down there. I've got soil amendments here, fertilizers, a little bit of vermiculite, seed starting mix. Currently storing all of my tarps and frost blankets in this muddy tote. And my favorite thing about this is this little drawer he built. It's got all of my, like my cedar, scissors, just things I need to start seeds with indoors. I don't really have a good water source here in my seed starting station, which is not a big deal. I've got a hydrant on the other side of the garage, and we have a hose hooked up, and I can use that to like water my plants under lights, my plants outside, and then also when I need it over here. But he is planning to hook up a sink right here, so it'll kind of centralize everything here. So this is where I pot everything up, bump it up, do my work. I like it because there's good natural light, and it's easy to see the tiny seeds. But then everything grows around the corner here. So for a little more perspective, here is Myron's side of the garage. Right there is a shelf that we still need to put together so I can organize my garden stuff a little better. But it was a Hail Mary effort this spring when I realized I was behind on everything. So I just threw some stuff in a corner and started. I want to organize this a bit better in the future, but that's what it looks like for now. Reality, here's a jankardy old four-wheeler parked right in my seed starting station. That's life on the farm. And then right around the corner here is the grow lights and things. You might be wondering what this cinder block wall is here. This is what they call the Frady hole, their tornado shelter. So I'll just show you inside real quick. I hope it's cleaned up. So we got a bed there. Whoops. We actually spent some time the other night in here because we got a tornado warning. Haven't cleaned it up yet. Canning shelves and extra kitchen supplies. So one of my favorite morning rituals is to grab my coffee, come out and check on everything, make sure that everything's got enough moisture, see if things need to be bumped up, and then I take the time to do that. Over the last several weeks, we've been putting a lot of work into the garden. We edged it, got a bunch of paths laid, got some structures made. In addition to all of his farm work, like building fences and clearing fence rows, Myron's been helping me a lot in the garden, and I'm really grateful for that. It was daunting to start all over, and I probably would not have a garden if it weren't for him. So we've got the potatoes planted, tomatoes, squashes, just a bunch of the veggies. And this coming week I want to work on more of the flowers, getting them in the ground. My tomatoes look terrible. And I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I think I know it's a combination of things. They didn't get enough nutrients, and I overwatered them, which contributed to sort of a brownish, yellowish color instead of vibrant green. So I have transplanted out probably half of these. These are actually just extra plants, and I'll update you all on how they look in the future, if they make it or not. The very first tray of things that I started, I used a seed starting mix. And that's also a rookie mistake. I didn't realize that that has absolutely no nutrients in it. They started out beautiful, huge, and then eventually they just started looking terrible. And it took me a while to realize that they weren't getting any nutrients. So here's my onions, some terrible looking spinach back there that I'm just gonna throw out. And my geraniums looked really bad, but they look a bit better now. They're kind of taken off. They were in the same nutrientless mix. I did end up planting those onions in the ground then. I figured they're young, they will recover. I stopped at Walmart to get some one day because I heard they had the little onion starts and they looked worse than mine. So I thought, hey, mine might be all right.